welcome back to the part 2 of my interview with Mrs. Darrliena McDonald here at the Roundtable. I'm your host, Sandy Powell. Please welcome my guest, Darrliena.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you came back for part 2.
Yes, ma'am.
We,
Absolutely.
we stopped off at what had been happening from age 5 through 19.
Yes.
And then one day, you said at the end of that interview the last time that I'm going to tell.
Yes.
I'm going to tell. One day I'm going to tell. Well, let's pick up from right there so
Okay.
everyone can know how this got open.
Absolutely. I'd always said that I didn't know how I was going to tell and when it was going to happen, but that day came. I had just turned 19. I was working for Delta Airlines. I was about to move out into my own apartment, and I had just gotten a new boyfriend. Not a new boyfriend, but my first boyfriend.
Wow.
And so my boyfriend was going to help me that weekend to move my things out into my own apartment. And this particular morning, the Friday before that Saturday, I was to move. My mother was at work. My sisters were in school. My brother, my twin, was in the room next to mine asleep. And I heard my stepfather come down the hallway. And God told me to prepare yourself to fight.
Wow.
And I just remember just laying in bed, pulling my sheets up, but underneath my sheets, my fists were just balled. And I was like, okay, God, I'm ready. I'm ready. So sure enough, he wakes my brother. He tells my brother to go out and run some errands. My brother leaves the house. I hear the car take off. And he comes through my room. He pulls my covers back and proceeds to take an advantage. And I just began to push him off of me the best I could. And this man was a very large man.
Right, right.
I pushed him. I fought as hard as I could. And he just began to laugh uncontrollably. And while he's laughing, I literally could hear demons in his voice.
Wow.
I could hear them in his voice, and I could see them in his face. And I just kept saying, you're not going to take my virginity. You're
Right.
not going to take my virginity.
Right. Because
And
up to this point, it had just been acts that he made you perform toward him.
Right.
He had not done any penetration or
No.
anything toward you.
None.
Okay, so now he is proceeding to now
Yeah. Take my innocence.
take your
Take
innocence.
my virginity.
Virginity.
And so much had already been taken from me, but I just felt like this one thing, this is for my husband. You know, I grew up in the church. I grew up with the standard of wanting or saving myself for my husband. And I wanted that, you know. I wanted to experience that with the love of my life.
Right.
And he was a monster. He wasn't the love of my life. So
This was like the one thing you had left.
that's the one thing that I had left. The one thing.
Right.
And I just made up in my mind that I wasn't going to be afraid of
Right.
him anymore.
Right.
And I was going to give him a run for his money. He was going to have to fight very hard to get it. So we're fighting. We're tussling back and forth. He's laying on me. After him laying on me and just laughing, he drags me out of the bed. And I remember the underwear that I had on, he tore. And by the time this happened, we were on the floor. And my cell phone started to ring. And
Right.
on my bed, there were shelves. And so I was able to reach up and grab my phone from the bed. And I knew that it was my mom calling. And at the time, he really didn't have, like, caller ID, but I knew the number.
Right.
So I try to answer, and he grabs it and throws my phone across the room. After that, his phone started to ring, and then the house phone started to ring. So I feel like he started to get nervous. So he runs out of the room, and immediately I go for my phone, and I call my mom back. And normally it's transferred, the call would be transferred
Right.
to her office.
Right.
But she answers the phone. And she knew that there was something wrong. And I told her I really didn't have time to explain, but I just needed her to listen. So I knew that he was coming back, and I put my phone under my bed. He came back, and he commenced doing what he had left off.
Came to do, right.
Yeah. And I began to just plead and beg him if I could just go to the bathroom to take a shower. I felt so dirty. And I was just like, just please just let me go to the bathroom. And I knew if I could just make it out the door, out of my bedroom door, I could run down the hall and, try to escape him.
Right.
Well, he said, if I let you out, are you going to come back? And I said, yeah, I'll come back. Just please let me go to the bathroom. So he's on my heels. And I try to walk out, and I try to bypass the bathroom. And he just grabs me from my waist and pulls me back into the bathroom. And he laughs again. And he's like, I knew I couldn't trust you. I knew I couldn't trust you. And by this time, I was like, okay, God, I can't fight anymore.
How did you get out of the house?
Well, I get out after we're fighting in the bathroom. He finally just lets me go and pushes me down. And he looks at me and just says, you're not worth it. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why would anybody be worth this?
Right.
So he walks away as if nothing has happened. So I go to my room and I put on whatever I see at the moment. And I get my phone, and my mother is crying hysterically on the phone.
Right.
And I asked her, had she heard everything? And she heard everything. And so she said that she was on her way to the house. And I just told her, Mama, don't come to the house. Meet me at my job.
Okay. So you go to the job and...
Go to my job. He follows me to the airport.
Okay.
And the small airport in Albany, there's 4 flights in and 4 flights out. So when I get there, my supervisor automatically sees me in the state that I'm in and is concerned. And I just tell her, if anyone comes besides my mom, call the police. So he comes in and he's screaming my name. Where's Darrliena? Darrliena. And people are looking like, who is this man?
Right.
And so my supervisor warns him, look, you have 5 seconds to leave the building or we're calling the police. He leaves. After he leaves, my mother pulls up. But before she pulls up, I had called his brother. And I explained to his brother, who lived here in Columbus, what was happening.
Right.
And he said that he had always known that there was something going on and told him, if you don't stop, God is going to punish you.
Wow.
And told me to go to the police. And so when my mom got to the airport, we drove to the police station and pressed charges.
Filed charges on it.
Yes.
And so from there, because I know that it's a lot that we're trying to condense into this time frame that we have here at the Roundtable. But he leaves, you go to the police, you and your mother, you file charges. What happens from there? What happens with him at that point?
He basically calls me a liar and has my brother with him. And my brother basically stood up for him and told the police that I was not telling the truth. And I looked at my brother because he was also a victim in so many different ways.
Did you know he was a victim at that time?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I picked up on it when we were about 15, and I started noticing that there were tendencies that I did that now I saw my brother doing when he would leave him.
Okay.
And I remember asking him the question. He just got so angry with me for even asking the question, and I just knew, okay, my brother's not going to talk about this.
Right.
So my brother, makes a statement that I am not telling the truth, and I'm making this whole thing up. And I'm just alone writing my statement with my mom. And a few weeks later, I called my brother, and he's at work, and I said, hey, we really need to talk. I'm going to come pick you up. And he's like, okay. So I go up and I pick him up from his job, and I say to him, you are a great man. And at the time, he was dating his wife, who he's married to now. And I said, you're not homosexual. You're not a victim. You don't have to be a slave to him. You don't owe him anything.
Right.
And I remember my brother just breaking down
Wow.
and crying and saying that he didn't know how to be brave for him. And I told him the first step was to admit that
Tell the truth.
You were a victim and to write a statement. And so we drove to the police station that night, and he testified on my behalf. And on his behalf, my stepfather was sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Wow.
And at the time, so many other teenage girls came forth, different people in the church that he had victimized, family members. It was major.
And so this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because, the Roundtable, we talk about everything. We talk about how things are with as far as the church is concerned, things that are great, and in your case, things that weren't so great, because the person that victimized you was not only your stepfather, but he was a leader.
Yeah.
He was a pastor, and as a pastor's pastor.
Right.
And so we have to protect ourselves and guard ourselves against the enemy, because he comes in many ways through many people. And so we can't necessarily let our guards down because of title and because of who we think a person is. And so you are firsthand of how life can be one way at church, and then at home,
Absolutely.
something totally different. And so what would you say would be some of the things that we would look for if we were to look at a child, and what were some of the things you think we could see that would tell us something's not quite right?
Good question.
What were some of the things that you kind of did or that showed that you weren't quite?
Well, before my mom remarried, I was always the boisterous twin. I spoke my mind about everything. And I recently asked my mom, what changes did she see in me in an early age when she remarried? And she said the number one thing that she noticed was I had become withdrawn. I would isolate myself. I did not really communicate with her because she was my best friend, before she got married. We would hang out together, go get our nails done, go to the mall together, and a lot of that stopped. He would always find ways to keep me away from her. If she was going shopping, Darrliena doesn't need to go. She needs to go clean her room, or she needs to finish her homework, or, there's something she needs to do at home away from you.
So is that when he would victimize you, why he would separate you two? So, okay.
Absolutely. And then he became very bold, and she could be in the kitchen washing dishes, and he'd have me in the room doing things while he's standing at the door looking to see if she's coming.
Wow.
So that was the first thing. And then if you notice that there's a change in character, my character changed a lot, where I was snappy because he made me feel like I was in competition with my mom.
Right.
And I can remember her asking me, was he touching me? Or was there anybody touching me? And I would get so upset, like, what do you mean? But on the inside, I'm like, if you are having these types of, feelings or thoughts or intuition, mother's intuition,
Go
then
with it.
go with it. And I was screaming that on the inside.
Right.
But becoming very frustrated because not really knowing the depth of abuse that she was going through.
Right.
And
then you as a child are being torn between two adults.
Yeah.
One that's pulling on you, is there anything wrong? And then you have another adult, the abuser, in your ear, that's giving you a platform that you're not supposed to be on, which is that of an adult equal to your mother. And so you are confused in your role as to who you are and what you are. And your mom is not even somebody that that he's teaching you to respect or to be respectful toward, or someone that you can feel safe with, because she's become your competition.
Yeah. You know, he made me feel like, and he'd always say to me, "You're my best friend. You're more than just my stepdaughter. You're more than just my daughter. You're my best friend." And he shared everything. Every woman he slept with outside of my mother, he's sharing this with
With
me.
you. Okay, let me just say something on that. Just put a pin right there.
Okay.
I am very leery of people who make their children their friends.
Yes.
That speak with their children as if they're on their level. I have grown children,
Yeah.
but there's still a distance between me and them in some areas. I don't feel I can share, or I don't feel the need to have a best friend in my children. And when I see that, I always think, what insecurity is in you
Yeah.
that you
would
have
make a
to make your
child.
child
Right.
your best friend?
Right. I don't agree with it
And
at all.
and when I see that, to me, that's a trigger for me.
Oh, yeah.
That says to me, like, get you a grown person in
Right.
your life so that you
Right.
can share your deepest and darkest with. Find you a pastor or somebody, but a child to open up them in that way.
Yeah.
Really, the enemy is just trying to arouse things, is what he's trying to wake things up in
Yeah.
you. And so when I see that, that's a red flag. Even I hear you say you and your mom were best friends, and I think that sometimes we get confused with sharing as mother and daughter as
Yeah.
best friends, but in actuality, mother and daughter can't be best friends. I mean, there is still a difference of level
There
in
is.
that.
Right.
That, because see, best friends, we can kind of say whatever,
Right.
whatever,
Whatever.
right? But mother and daughter, when I say whatever, she better not say whatever. Yeah. And so we have to be even careful in that. But in those cases, because it doesn't allow our children to freely come to us about things that they need to, we're supposed to be their guardian and their protector. And if we step into a role of best friend or friends, then we lose something there.
Right.
And he took advantage of that.
Yeah.
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 I tell you one thing, you have evolved from those days.
Yeah,
I can see
thank
it
you.
all over you.
Thank you.
God is a preserver,
Yes, he is.
and he will build up what man thinks he has torn down, the enemy think he has torn down.
Amen.
And so God is doing great things in your life. I know he is.
Yes, God is good.
You have a book in
Yes.
you
Yes.
that you are going to be writing. Do you want to disclose the name of it?
I would love to.
Tell us.
I've been praying about the title of my book for almost 2 years. And I had a few different thoughts, but it came to me a couple weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine just about growing up. And one thing that we had to do when my mother married him,
Right.
we had to do chores like I was Cinderella. So we'd get up every Saturday morning and we'd have to wash the walls, all the walls in the house, the baseboards. And it came to me like an epiphany. I was like, that's the name of my book, Washed Walls.
Wow.
You know, as a kid, I would write a lot. Even before I knew how to spell, I was trying to write.
Right.
And I would illustrate pictures of what he was doing to me in my diary. And one day, he saw my diary, and he took it. And in front of me, he ripped up the pages. He grabbed me by my hand, took me to the bathroom, and he put the pages in the sink, and he set the pages on fire. And he told me I could not write anymore. So that really stifled something for me, my creativity, my
Voice.
my voice. Thank you.
He took your voice.
He took my voice. So that's a whole nother story. But he took my voice. So on my cover, what I envision are walls that are filled with my words, and I see like a wash rag washing my words
away.
my voice away.
Yes. Yes.
So
You know what? When you get the book, please, I know you're blowing up.
Ah.
There's more great news that's coming forth for you, and I know that you're going places, but I'm going to get it on tape. Please come back and share with me here at the Roundtable when you get your book written.
Absolutely.
Will you do
got
that?
You got it.
Okay, y'all heard it now. She's committed. That's called verbal contract.
Now we done shook up.
Yes, it is a book that many people will benefit from that have been through child molestation and abuse.
Yeah.
And sometimes someone else's voice becomes their voice.
Yeah.
And it's empowering. And that's what people like you, like myself, I can name many others who say from their place of abuse, they stand up and say, I'm going to tell my story. And it's liberating.
Yeah. I started a blog last year called Speak Up, Speak Out. And that's pretty much my motto. Speak up, speak out. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody.
Right.
I don't care if you're 5 or if you're 55. You know, a lot of people said to me, well, here you are almost 20 years old. Why did you wait so long? You don't know what someone who's going through,
Right.
you know, being victimized all their
Right.
life is dealing with. So I just encourage people to talk to somebody.
Right. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
And people will even question, you know, that you were 19. But when you've been formed from 5 up through that, you've been formed that way.
Right.
See, they don't understand the weight that's sitting on you, how the abuse has shut you down, how you feel helpless and hopeless. And so where you, in your spunky days before this happened, may have said something. Once you have been minimized within yourself, it's hard to speak. Somewhere you find the strength at some point to say something, but until that day happens, you just don't know what to do sometimes.
You don't.
And so I applaud you 1,000 times over for your strength, your courage, your boldness. I thank God that you're not ashamed anymore, because it's a shame that we carry with it as well, that the enemy uses against us to keep us
silent. Yes.
And suffer in silence. But you and I both have learned that we grow and that we get liberated.
Yes.
The more we talk, the more we speak, the more free we become. And I can't wait to read what's Washed Walls,
Wash walls.
by Darrliena McDonald.
Yes.
When it breaks open, I promise you, it's going to be liberating for. First of all, it's going to
receive it.
you yourself. It's going to break open something for you.
I receive that.
It's going to break open something, because I wrote my book. I never released it, called Rise from the Ashes. I've never released it. It was therapeutic for me
Yes.
to say it and get it out.
Yeah.
I've never released it. My husband's been telling me, you need to release this
Oh,
book, you need
yes.
to release this book. But I've never felt the need to release it. But the liberation that it gave me to just say some of the horrors, and I know it's going to do the same thing for you, but unlike me, you're English, and I look forward to it in the very, very near future. You and your mom relationship, how's that?
It's beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful. I love my mother with all my heart.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't blame her for, you know, everything that happened to me. I was able to forgive my mom for not being strong. Not, you know, I understand now the level of abuse that she was going through.
And it was hard for her to be strong.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to protect your children when you are being victimized.
Right.
And I wish people would understand that as well.
Yeah.
17 years myself, that was abusive.
Wow.
And thinking back like your mom, I'm sure she has those days where she says, why didn't I just leave?
Yes.
And protect my children. But we had to grow up. I'm sure your mother had to grow up in it within herself as well. So I'm so glad you forgave her for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My mom was a kid when she had me. You know, she was a teenager. So, I mean, she was learning. And now, as a grown woman, I can say, okay, I recognize that, I understand that, you know, and for my mom to apologize and accept the responsibility of not being all she could be for my brother and I, you know, means the world to me, that she was honest about her role.
Right.
So I have a lot of respect for my mom.
Good stuff. I want to say to you too, just from the aspect of a spiritual standpoint, that I know because of who did what they did and the role that he was in the church, that sometimes we can get lost in that.
Yes.
But I pray, and my prayer will be for you, is that you find your way completely back and not look at the church as something that you can't trust. Because the one thing I know is that hurt people go to church too.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so we all look to God for our healing and to be set free and be delivered.
Amen.
So with that being said, I want to say to you, thank you again for coming to share. I love you
I love
all,
you too.
deep love with you. And so I look forward to your success in whatever it is that you're doing. I know you're going places, and I'm glad I'm a part of it.
Thank you.
I'm keep my little thing hooked to you. Everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for hearing this story of Miss Darrliena. Look for her. It happens, I promise you, I will bring it to the round table. We're going to discuss it. But in the meantime, if you find yourself a victim, now then, get help.
Yes.
Say something to somebody, anybody. Tell as many people as you can until someone hears your voice.
Yes.
Just keep telling it. Someone's going to listen one day and going to help you, okay? So be blessed, and I'll meet you back here next week at the round table.
I am Arcasia Butler, founder of Uplift Mentoring at Central High School in Phoenix City, Alabama. I am so excited to announce our 7th annual Girls Rock Gala, where this year's theme is the strength of a woman, beautiful, confident, fearless. We are beyond excited to invite and welcome 11 amazingly talented women to our Girls Rock Hall of Fame this year. And we invite you to join us on April 28th, 2018 at 6 p.m. at Central High School. To purchase a ticket, please visit www.wctministries.org and access the Uplift logo. We look forward to seeing you this year, and we thank you so much for your continued support of Uplift Mentoring.
World Changes Tabernacle, led by Prophet Prathan Powell, is a word-based church committed to seeing you win. We're called to create a loving and caring community for all people and work together for justice and peace in our world. Recognizing that our spiritual journeys are all different, we strive to be respectful and inclusive concerning each individual's relationship with God. We believe that Christianity is a lifestyle, and we're committed to teaching, learning, and living the Word of God. It's more than a song, more than a shout, more than a dance. Whether you're a committed follower of Christ or just curious about God, you are invited to visit with us. Give us a call or check out our website for more information or to see our sermon times.